It's the last day of the Mining Indaba in Cape Town, where thousands of delegates from around the world have been interacting to secure opportunities in the African mining industry. My colleague Nompumelelo Siziba caught up with mining expert Peter Major.
Well, it's the fourth and final day of the Mining Indaba here in Cape Town. And of course, there's been a lot of activity, a lot of discussion going on around the just transition, around digital mining, around how to ensure that communities are more involved and better included in the mining ecosystem. Today, there's a lot of focus on the youth in mining and opportunities therein. But we're going to wrap up today by just having a conversation around some of the key points that have come out of this week's Mining Indaba. I'm joined by Peter Major. He's a director at Emergence Corporate Solutions. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us. Let's start on the whole issue of youth in mining. That's one of the hot topics today. As the mining industry seeks to modernize, what sort of skills do youngsters need to be looking to acquire to be able to have a fruitful career in the mining sector?
They need a lot of skills, Numpu. They need technical skills. They need reading and writing skills. They definitely need communication skills. So schooling's never been more important in probably any industry. It's definitely important in mining. And especially now with this big focus on ESG, and in Africa, mining companies are having to do a lot of the functions that in other countries governments do. You know, mining companies are having to provide services for communities. Mining companies are having to provide education. So boy, anyone coming into mining now, you're not just a specialist in a particular field. You've got to have a good background in all the basic other interactions we just mentioned, you know, communication skills, hygiene, and definitely managerial skills. You know, most of us, when we went to university, they taught you the technical bit. You didn't know anything about managing. Well, boy, you're managing all the time now on a mine, whatever your level is.
And one of the other discussions is the digitalization of mining. When I think of digitalization, I think of fewer people working at the mine. Is that necessarily the case? Is there going to be a shift in where labor works?
Yes, but a lot of digitization just means how you communicate what you're doing with the rest of the operation. In other words, a driller, he's still drilling holes, but he's probably doing it through a machine that's now communicating with another division of the mine. So they know, where is he drilling the holes at? What rate is he drilling the holes at? How many is he drilling? How deep are they? You know, how much explosives are going to go in the holes? And moving the tons. So yeah, digitization, a man isn't just using a loader to move the rock. That loader is measuring how much he's loading. And now we have digitization. It's inside the rock telling everybody, what grade is that rock? Is it high grade, low grade? What ore bunker does it go in? So yeah, digitization, it's hard to define in a sentence or a paragraph, because it's permeating the whole mining operation.
So we've been talking about this whole concept of ESG, just transition and all of that. We'll get into that in a short while. But one of the things obviously that speaks to that is us creating a lower carbon footprint. Last week, Anglo-American introduced this hydrogen-powered truck, which President Ramaphosa was raving about, talking about how it should be the genesis of things to come. What's your view around that? And surely this is a very costly endeavor for any industry to take part in.
You are so right. I'm glad you brought that up. This is a real costly endeavor. You know, not only is it one of the biggest trucks on a mine, but yes, because it's converting other elements in the atmosphere to give it hydrogen, to run hydrogen instead of diesel. And next door, they have Robert Friedland's platinum mine. He's all underground. He's using an electric loader underground. And it was as we all know, an open pit mine does 10 times the environmental destruction of an underground mine. So if you have a hydrogen truck on top and you have an electric truck underneath, but you're only moving 1/10 of the rock and you're only creating 1/10 of the damage, maybe environmentally it's better to just stay underground and not worry about converting your truck to be a little bit cleaner when the mine is still doing huge damage. Yeah, there's a lot of implications. So it's neat they've got that giant truck running on hydrogen instead of diesel, but should we have these giant trucks in these giant open pits if we can go underground?
Indeed.
And employ 10 times the men.
The just transition, that's something that's been buzzing around here, more so for the African continent. Just give us briefly, succinctly, your view around this whole issue.
Look, I'm not happy with this word, just transition. It's a little bit like that previous word called transformation. Everybody that uses that word has a different definition. And unless the world starts agreeing on a definition, it's going to get misused a lot. Because I'm not sure what just transition means. If we're transitioning to greener, that's a just transition. We should do it fast. And if we're transitioning to educating all the employees on the mine so that they get a better job, well, that transition should happen fast. So when Mr. Montage talks about a just transition, it's often he's defending a dirty industry that should have been changed a long time ago, you know.
But how do you transform, or how do you just transition fast in a place like Mpumalanga?
A lot of our legislation and our policies have done reverse transformation. They have done an unjust transformation. If you look at our gold mine industry, we had 580,000 people when I came here in '82. Now we have 80,000. Mr. Montage and Mr. Ramaphosa were more responsible for our gold industry than any two people in this country. So there's a missing 500,000 men. What kind of just transition was that? Why did we eliminate 500,000 men on the gold mines when the whole world wants gold and we have half the world's gold right here? So this just transition, people need to define it.
You're clearly skeptical about that. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of what's bringing everybody here together. That is the market, the commodities market.
Yeah.
We know that there's been a sort of commodity boom for quite some time. It picked up again towards the end of 2020, and I guess it's continuing even now, helped a little bit by the Russia-Ukraine war, perversely. But what are the risks to this commodity boom coming to an end?
The risks are very high because commodities are cyclical. They go up, they come down, and they go way down, and then they go up again. And you never know quite when, but you know when they go to very high prices, they're not going to stay there. And fortunately, when they go to very low prices, they also won't stay there. But we've been more on the high side this whole millennium. This is the longest commodity boom the world's ever seen. This has been a 15, 16-year commodity boom, which is double the previous booms I've seen in 100 years. So these commodities are coming off now. We have missed a heck of a lot of this. We're moving the same coal that we were moving 25 years ago. The rest of the world is moving a lot more coal. We're moving iron ore probably where we were 10 years ago. The rest of the world's moving a lot more. So we have really missed out on a lot of this because we've reversed our mining policy and legislation to make it scary, negative, not good to expand production. And we've allowed our infrastructure to fall apart. You can't get electricity, you can't get rail. And yes, unfortunately, South Africa's policies, legislation, and politicians have ensured that we missed out the most of this commodity boom compared to all the other mining countries.
Just to wrap it off, a positive comment?
That this Indaba was such a success that people are so happy to come here and that they want to hear South Africa amending their policies and working with the mining industry to grow our mining industry like the rest of Africa is doing its. And we can now learn from the African countries above us who originally were learning from us.
Peter, thank you so much. Always a pleasure chatting to you. Peter Major, he's a director at Mergence Corporate Solutions, giving us his take on things there. It's back to you in studio.